Alana, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. We have been trying to schedule this, and I'm so excited because anyone that's friends with Kelsey, like I immediately know I'm going to get along with, so I'm really excited to finally meet you in person.
Yeah, me too. And anyone that's friends with Kelsey's probably crazy, so you will get on.
Yeah, that or we have like a high tolerance for big personalities. Like I tend to be like very introverted and quiet, and then I attract friends that are like the louder, like
Yeah,
more.
that's me too. 1000%. All
yeah.
my friends are like that, and I'm like the quiet one, just watching them.
Yes, same. But you need it because like sometimes you need someone to kind of
Yeah.
pull those things or help promote. Like I'm really bad at self promotion. I can't do it. It's not in me. And Kelsey will introduce me like I'm like this amazing, like unstoppable. You've
Yeah.
got to listen to her. And I'm just like, I love you so much, but I can't do that for me.
She is incredible, and that's 1000% what I do as well. I can't promote myself. I can promote everything that I do, but when somebody said, "Tell me about yourself," I'm like, no.
Yeah, that's like I hate that opening question. I was like, how do you even begin, especially with someone like you, because you're so multifaceted. And I was trying to like get little tastes of your podcast earlier this morning, and one of them was I think an older episode with Kelsey actually, and she when I was I think she might have tried to like soft pitch you like way back in the day to me, and she was talking about all of the work that you were doing to get people out of Afghanistan and how you were like booking jets and on the phone and like all the work that you were doing. And I'm like, oh, I had no idea, because there's other people that do it and it's like their entire personality, but like you're a lot more quiet about a lot of the work that you do.
Yeah, it's interesting because we'll speak about it that if you look at my website, you'll see one version of me. But when I was looking at it with my web designer the other day, and I was like, that literally tells you nothing about me. Like, but that's kind of what we like, because the work that I do in like open source intelligence and everything, all my clients are word of mouth. Like we don't advertise, we don't pitch our services. It's just someone recommends and we do it like that. And then when it comes to the evacuations, the disaster stuff, the traffic, and the more kind of out there you are and the louder you are, the more difficult it can make your job sometimes. So it's kind of like a not catch-22, but you've just got to be really careful about, okay, we do need to be out there, we do need to be talking about it, we do need to be doing stuff, but actually the work we do is super private, so we've got to be careful. So it's just a balancing act, really.
Yeah, I've heard that, especially with the human trafficking stuff. So one of my friends, maybe 5 years ago now, started like a training, a nonprofit for human trafficking. Most of the work that they do is in Nepal, and he was saying like one of the big hangups that like some of these bigger companies have is that like the front-facing spokesman is now so recognizable that you have zero chance at being able to go in and actually be effective. So at some point you have to kind of like re-strategize, and if that's what you're going to do, then maybe you use that for fundraising, but you're not going to be an effective operator if you can like just see you a mile away.
Yeah, I mean, most of the work we used to do was based on the task force side of it, but because everything I want to happen now is on the education and prevention side, it's a super underfunded section. It's not like the sexy part, you know, everybody wants to see the guy coming out the door with a kid in their arms and the big heroic scenes, but we're like, no, let's just stop it happening in the first place, let's just end it that way. So we move further into that, but then there is a lot of like dark forces in what you're doing as well. So it's right now I'm doing a lot of legislative work and educational programs and training things, and that requires me to talk a lot more and get out there and just and blend. And it's funny what you're saying about Kelsey, because Kelsey's like, I'll get you on this podcast, I'll get you on this podcast. I'm like, I've got to be really careful. I don't want to be like seen as somebody who's out there just talking. I need to be coming in with actual, this is what we're doing, this is what we need, this is how, because a lot of people will say when they speak to me, okay, you're doing that work, what can we do to help? And obviously the first thing that people say is, oh, we need funding. But coming from like a non-profit background, I know that that's the biggest turn off for a donor is, just give me your money. Like, what else can you do that can help? Like, what awareness can we do? What lobbying can we do? There's so much other things. So yeah, when we were doing more in the shadows work, it was in the shadows. I've been doing this 24 years and I've probably been speaking about it 4 or 5. So it's changed. Times have changed for sure.
So as far as that, because I would agree, preventative measures are where you want to kind of be focusing on, because you can rescue these women and children from these situations, but they're going to be replaced by a new woman and a new child. Unfortunately, it's like a hydra, right? Like you take off one head and like 3 more spring up. So the solution is prevention typically. The education that you're doing, before we started recording, we were talking about like you potentially speaking at like a school, for example. Like, what are you, if you're a young parent or listening, right, and you have these kids that are on social media and you have, connection to everything, like what kind of education do you provide like parents or young people online to protect themselves?
I think the first thing is just there's been a lot of movies and a lot of talk about what human trafficking is, and a lot of people have this vision of this like kidnapping and this white van situation and all these things that the Hollywood will show you, but it's true that 99% of kids that are taken by someone they know. And it can be family abduction, and it can be stranger abduction, but from someone they've met online. So that, like, less than 1% are that kidnapping back of the van situations. And what they're doing is they're grooming your kids. So they're building trust with them. And they find these kids, they're very specific kids. And I'll have that conversation with many people, and they'll say, oh, it happens in impoverished areas or third world countries, or there's a certain image in their head of who would be targeted. The last 3 cases I've dealt with have all been high net worth, affluent families that the kids have been targeted. So it's not so much just about their background and their social economic background. It's to do with are they talking to their parents? Are they isolated? Like, where do they get their education from? Like, where do they get their information from? Are they online more than they're talking in person? Who are their peers? Where are they getting their information from? So they're targeting the people who are isolated. So if we're talking about high net worth people, they can often have like a wing of the house to themselves. They sit in every day. Mum and dad could be out pretty much all day. Maybe they're with the nannies half the time. So they can become a strong target. And then what do they need? Well, they're missing something that's an emotional void. It doesn't need to be a financial void. It can be this connection that they're not getting, and this groomer will offer that. And then it's just about building that trust, keeping them secluded, keeping them secretive, slowly introducing the sexualization of it without any actual sex. And the reason I talk about this part is because this is all completely legal. So for somebody to groom a child up to the point of becoming sexual, it's not an illegal act. 2 states have got laws now, but pretty much like the world doesn't actually see it as a crime yet. So this is the part that we as parents need to be heavily involved in. I mean, I'm pushing for legislation to make it illegal, but right now, parents just need to recognise all these signs. And they're super subtle. You can have cases. I had one recently where it was actually a teacher who was speaking to the child, and the parents didn't know whether it was grooming. And they came to me, and I said, the fact that you're coming to me says that something's telling you that something's off. Mm-hmm. But there was no sexual wording in it. There wasn't anything that would immediately go, this is grooming. Mm-hmm. But it was those subtle kind of things of this person talking to them, making friends with them, like isolating their trust, all these types of tiny little things that on suspicion, and I always say if you've got that gut feeling, then it's probably true. The difficult with that is that there's not much we can do because she wasn't breaking the law technically, but the parents can take action and prevent their kid from being
right, like shut down that relationship, essentially. Yeah. I was trying to talk to someone about this just a couple days ago because it's something that I'm also like really passionate about. It terrifies me as a parent because there is like so much anonymity online, and there's only so much you can do because you don't want to make your kid like a Luddite and take away all technology because that does them a disservice. So it's how do you prepare your child for the road and not the road for your child, and sending them out into something that you know is going to be dangerous, right? And there's thorns out there. So just giving them the tools to make them capable little humans. Yeah. But so many parents avoid it altogether because it's so scary, and they'll use the guise of like, oh, it's not really happening. And I think an unfortunate thing that happened after 2020 is like you get these really loud voices that kind of like they caricaturize everything. So because of what happened with QAnon, so many people think that like trafficking isn't real, and they associate it with like a right-wing talking point, and it's like it's not a problem that truly exists. When you talk about the numbers and you say that there are more people in slavery today than there has ever been, people are like, there's no way that's true. And it's like, well, it's been forced underground, and like, yeah, the numbers are disputed, but no matter what, even on like the low end, they're very high. So I always tell parents, if your kid is verbal, like, right, if they have the ability to talk and you are leaving them with anyone that is not you or like your husband, that they need to be able to communicate if something happens. They need to know what's in and out of bounds. And people think that that's too young. And I remember being like 3 and my dad talking about it. He was a cop, so I mean, he saw some pretty horrific things. So he's like, I'm gonna, do what is necessary to like protect my kid. And I was talking to this mom about it because like I have that gut feeling that there's an adult in this situation that something's off. And I was like, well, have you talked to your kids about this? And she's like, no. Well, I mean, her oldest is 12. I'm like, how have you not? That's way too old. And like just like pointing out behavior. So some of the things that are inappropriate aren't overtly sexual, right? Like it's taking the kid to like their favorite restaurant, or taking them out all day, or having them stay over because you like, I know you're so busy, let me watch your kid overnight. Like these are really weird things. Or like secrets are a big thing. So if you have like, they'll test the boundaries of whether or not that kid has an open line of communication with the parent. So maybe they'll say like, fuck, oh, I shouldn't have said that, that's a bad word, don't tell your parents. And they'll start with something like that, and they're like, oh, okay, well, I'm building like this like very isolated relationship with this kid, and now I can kind of keep pushing those bounds more and more.
Yeah, and I mean, there's a couple of things there. The way that I always try and say it, because a lot of us I didn't grow up with technology. I didn't have computers in school. We grew up quite, we were just in that point of change. But, we did grow up with like play parks, and that's where we hung out. That's where we all went. And there was, with the slides and the swings and everything else. And then we always had that story told us about the guy in the big long coat that would come and like flash or do all these things. And if he did come to the park, we called the cops. Our parents would come. That guy was removed, like taken out of that park, put in jail, whatever it might be. What we're saying now is, okay, this is the kids' playground, the social media, the internet. This is their playground now. This is where they hang. It's where they meet. It's where they socialize. It's where they do all these things. And we're saying, to protect them from the predators, we need to take them out of there. And that's saying, well, take all the kids out of the park and leave the predator in there by himself. And that's not really fixing the problem, because first it's making them think that it's their fault, they've done something wrong, and then the bad guy's still there, and we're not really addressing that. Actually, you see the bad guy, you tell mum or dad, you tell a policeman, you report him straight away, he'll get removed, all, like the same type of theory. But if somebody contacts you online, your kid needs to be able to come and say, mum, this person's contacted me at any stage. So if this guy messages your kid and your kid comes to you, great, perfect, thank them, praise them, give them love. But if that kid's maybe talked a little bit or done stuff, or maybe even sent a picture, still give them the praise and love and everything. I think a lot of people react with the, you shouldn't have done that, like that was so bad, like you're in trouble now, all these kind of things, and it just blocks them being able to talk to you again. So just let, as you say, a constant communication, because traffickers have evolved, from, it's been around since the Mesopotamia days, like slavery exists, and it is going to exist, but it isn't the kidnapping, it isn't the forced labor. They've evolved into very, very smart predators, and they know that they're going to get caught if they just try and seduce a kid in the classroom, or if they just try and make someone go and work on the streets for them and take all their money. They know that that's not going to work as easily. They have to make them come to them. So the process of grooming a child, or even a young woman who thinks she's in love, and the person gives them all this love and affection, and then eventually gets them doing things that the money all goes to that person. And that could be anything from sex work to pornography, to webcams, all these things. All great if you're doing it off your own back. Somebody else is not so you can't even use the word forcing you to do it, because they've manipulated and think you want to do it, and you're out there doing it by yourself. You're getting none of the profit for it, and everything that's going wrong. As soon as you're out of that spell of thinking this guy loves you and that you're his only one and all these things, it's going to become clear that you've been abused for all these years. So it's been able to spot that really clever path of manipulation that they work on, and they do it so well that really by the time there's 7 stages, and by the time it's at that 7th stage, it's difficult to identify a victim because most cops will see this girl going, he's my boyfriend, like I'm doing this because I want to, like, and that's truly what they're saying, and it's probably to an extent truly what they believe. So these stages are key to kind of cut it, because once you get to that, once it's happening and it's hard.
I know, and then that's the really tricky part, because it's like, how do you intervene or prevent anything without also overstepping on like agency, or ultimately just like freedom and like the freedom for adults to make mistakes, because that's what a lot of it is. But you do see a lot of that manipulation, and specifically within like any kind of adult content. So obviously I was in that industry for a while, and it's frustrating because there are so many like dishonest voices that are being propped up on both sides. Like one main narrative will be that like all of it is trafficking, right? Like there is not a single woman that has like made that choice of her own volition in some way, like she's broken, it's her trauma, or she's being manipulated and trafficked, right? Like that's obviously not true. And the other side is that like there is no trafficking, don't look here, right? It's all consent, and that's also not true. And right now, like there's someone making their way like through all of the circuits, and she's trying to pretend that she cares so much about trafficking, and really she's getting paid millions of dollars to do all of this. So I'm like, well, you don't really care, and the company you're complaining about doesn't even exist anymore. So like, what have you actually done to prevent like vulnerable women from going into this space? So I do think that the barrier of entry should be more difficult. Like I think 18 is ridiculous to like let somebody in, and if you have an 18-year-old, I think it's so much easier to manipulate them, right? And to get them to do something or fall in love, or like shine like something sparkly in front of them and get them to do it. And then on the flip side, you have very famous male influencers, if you will, that have been totally forgiven for doing this, like of their own admission have said that they have done like lover boy tactics to like take women's passports and then get them to start webcamming, and then we're like, oh well, she's an adult, so it's not trafficking. And like I don't know. So it's like
it's something that I get asked to comment on all the time, and obviously that individual that you discussed enjoys a lawsuit, so it's very interesting to say what you believe in about this. But here, like, the facts are, a lot has been admitted, as in what you're claiming to do. And if we took the two separate things, the trafficking and the grooming, when it comes to grooming 101, like, that's exactly what they're doing. And then I think it comes down to what you were saying is I often disagree in the circles of human trafficking. There is quite a tight group of people that work in the areas, and there's a lot of people that have human trafficking non-profits, and as you say, a lot of them make a shit ton of money and are not actually doing anything to help. They're getting rich themselves and they're not doing anything. And then there's this like group of people that are maybe less vocal but doing amazing work, and then there's the in-between. And normally when it comes to the more religious aspect of it, we will always cross swords in it, because my point is that a woman should not be owned by anybody. She should be able to do what she wants to do when she wants to do it. It's her body, it's her choice and everything. But so I don't think there should be 8,000 women in jail for prostitution. I don't think that should be the crime. The crime should be selling a woman, taking her money. And it comes down to the intent. You know, if you're going out and you're making friends with a woman to using the lover boy method, everything with the intent of making money off of that person, and that is your full intent, make them fall in love with you, make them think that you're the one and only, completely throw those rose tinted glasses over that girl, and then boom, we're going to make some money off her. That to me is the scum of the earth. That is like illegal. Well, it's not illegal fully, but it should be illegal. And it's when a woman is being abused and she just doesn't know it. When it comes to, if you want to go and do whatever the hell you want to do, you do it. It's your choice, but it's your choice. And again, when it comes to the age of consent, I had one recently where the girl done her OnlyFans debut, and it was the 18th birthday debut thing. It went up on the 18th birthday. So tell me, when were those pictures taken? When was everything happening? If it went up on the 18th birthday. And that's when it's like this girl was being prepped and preened to be ready for her 18th birthday when she was still a child. And that's the questions that I would want to ask. You know, at 18, if you decide this is the industry you want to get into, then let's make sure that it really is. I mean, they get interviewed to go into the military before they go and do, like, there's a basic training of how long before they go in there. Like, why are we just doing something that's going to alter your life forever before really knowing if that's what you want to do? And then if you do, then great, that's perfect. But it, you know, the violation of a woman's body, if it's not fully in your choice, can stick with you forever, will stick with you forever.
Yeah, I think it does too. And it is hard because you have to pick an age as to like what is an adult that can make their own decisions. But at the same time, with what we're learning about brain development, they're now suggesting that boys' brains aren't done till 30, and women's,
even then,
I know, even then we're like, I don't know if it's fully there yet. And then with women, they're saying like 25, 28. So if you know that 18, that's, you know, at least a decade of development that's still happening, and that is all executive function. That is like you thinking of like cost benefit analysis and like being able to think and forecast into the future. That's not done, and now you have everything that's online forever. Like there's no, I could have all the regret in the world about my choices. I mean, I don't, but if I did, there's nothing I could do about it. There's not enough money that I could take down all of my decisions, and I don't know at 18 if you're ready to to really grasp the magnitude of that. You know what I mean? And then I guess the other question follow up to that is, does it even matter with the development of AI? Because now we have deep fakes that are so hyper realistic that you could have someone that never gets there, and you know they're making an explicit video of you, and there's nothing anyone can do about it right now.
Yeah. I mean, I think that, you know, when I was young, I went to Amsterdam and I saw some of the things there. You know, there was those video stores and there was like pretty much everything. Some of those videos we were just watching earlier, you'd have picked them up in some of the Amsterdam stores. But there seems to be like a huge shift because we've shifted as a society into what we find is acceptable. That the kind of secret little perversions that we once had as a society are starting to come into like mainstream and just become normal. And I think that they're saying that the young boys, for example, that are maybe following like the PhD programs and these types of things are struggling to understand what sex really is, and then they're getting their education through porn, or they're getting their education and they're like, what should I really be doing? What is intimacy? Like, do we do like strangling? Do we do all this kind of stuff to make it fun for the girl? And then even I think there's this idea that boys want all that, and it's like actually boys love affection and they love intimacy, and that can make it really difficult for them. So there's been a rise in ED medication amongst young boys now, and how much damage is that doing to a kid? So I think like the more what we would have called perversions before coming into the mainstream, it's just blurring everybody's minds, and we're losing that just love and intimacy that once was there.
Yeah, because there's not really anything modeled for that anymore, and then it's not what's in, because you, like, men aren't supposed to have feelings, and now there's this propping up of like modern day harems. Like, men, if you're a real alpha, you're not going to get married, and women are only there to be like submissive and quiet and do their duties. And that's what I love about like your dynamic with your husband. Like, the very little that I've seen online is you're both like so independently strong people, but when I watch interviews with like the two of you though, like the way that you flow and like give space to each other, and how supportive he describes like your relationship in the beginning, and I mean obviously still now, but like how you guys complement each other so beautifully. And I'm like, how does anyone see a couple like you and then these other examples that are like, women are useless? And I'm like, which one do you want? Like, you want like a strong woman that's going to be able to like handle things if you can't, and like take care of the home while you're gone? And do you want to leave someone who's completely incapable to protect your children? No, of course not. Of course not.
And I think that the world just got really confused. I mean, there was a time, you know, we Dean and I came, and we've gone through so many different paths of how we get to who we are right now. And for a long time, I almost did become a little bit submissive. He left the military, and I was like, what does he want to do? So it was, let me work on his career and let me do his things. And I would spend all my time planning his stuff out, and it didn't really work. It didn't it didn't come in. And then when I said, actually, no, like, I'm good at this, I'm going to do this, you do this. Because Dean's terrible with money. He's terrible with, like, he would never invoice anybody for any job that he does. He just does it for the thrill. So I've got to do that. We've got to build that. And that was when we started our podcast Behind the Scene. It was because we knew so many women that were running the show, and this guy was out front, and nobody knew who the wife was, and she got zero recognition. And a lot of us don't want recognition. I think women slightly don't need it as much as what men might need, but it's still good to show your partner, yeah, I respect you, and I can hold the ground while you're away. You can, and he needs me just as much as I need him, like emotionally, maybe physically he might be better at some things, but he couldn't make 3 babies, I know that much. So he's like, we've kind of come together on that. But yeah, I watch a lot of things and I'm like, oh, like, who's hurt you? Like, why are you and I think the choices, like, if you're going to choose a certain type of woman, you're going to end up with a certain type of life. And it might be that I was speaking with a friend of mine recently, and he was watching Dean and I, and he said, I would love that. And I'm like, well, stop going for people half your age, right, that are after your income. Like, that would be the best way to solve that. Like, look for an equal, look for somebody who could stand next to you in the war, and who will fight with you and will have your back 100% of the time. And that doesn't need to mean to say that you're always like yes men to each other, but in front of other people, then you absolutely should be. I hate seeing couples like bickering in front of me and like tearing each other apart. I'm like, no, be a union in front of people. Do that behind the door.
I totally agree. That's like one of my biggest things is like finding a partner that does that. It's not blind support. It's not being a yes man, but you're a united front publicly. And then if something needs to be addressed, you do it privately. There's no need to involve other parties, right? Because especially, I think coming from the feminine lens, like, you need to know that man is going to protect you, right? Like, he's got your back. And if there's ever a feeling where he's the aggressor, or that he's no longer safe, then I feel like that starts to deteriorate the relationship. I saw this quote recently, and it said, women don't fall out of love, they fall out of safety. And it's like the little ways that a man will make you feel unsafe or unsupported, like, that's what starts to break down the relationship. It's not like the love goes away, because if you talk to most women, even if they divorce or they separate, whatever the thing might be, like, they'll almost always say that there's still love. So it's like, that didn't happen. It's like you haven't stepped up into like the masculine in the way that you were supposed to. It's because you're not seeing us as a unit anymore. Yeah.
And I think working out what that safety is for your partner, is it, and sometimes financial is a big thing. Sometimes it can be someone's attacking you in not just a physical way, but in the courtroom or in work, or wherever it might be, but having that person's back. Dean often tells me, like, sometimes he'll go out with the guys and they'll all be like bitch moan about their wives, and he just sits there quietly and is like, well, maybe talk to her about this. And there was one time he actually went to a Bible event, a church event thing that he went to, and he's not religious at all, but a friend had invited him along to speak to this group, and it was a Saturday morning, 9:00, and the topic was, how do we become better husbands and fathers? And they said to Dean, could you come along and speak on this? And he said he got along there, and he went, first thing would be, on a Saturday morning at 9:00, be with your wife and kids, and not with a group of guys talking about how to be better fathers. Like, be present, just be with them. Because I think that's it can go too deep. Like, just be there, as you say, be their safety, be their net, be their emotional security when they need it. But yeah, that would be my thinking. And the same with some groups of women that I can be with. It's just complaining about their partners constantly, but maybe there's a reason. Maybe he's never home, but maybe he's working all the time to make sure that you're financially good. But maybe if that's not what you want, then talk to him about that and say, well, actually, we could maybe downsize our house if you didn't work so much. Like, maybe I don't need all that purses or whatever it might be, but it's communication 1000% every time.
Yeah, I agree. I would go to these mom dinners and it was the very same thing, just kind of complaining about kids or complaining about the husbands, and then some of the moms would say that they hadn't been on a date with their husband in 2 years, and and I'm like, well, then how am I at dinner with you right now? We just met, right? So you're not putting the energy into the thing that you're saying isn't where you want it to be performing. So if you want to perform at your work, you show 100%. If you want to perform with your friends or whatever area, like you try to give it your best, but you don't do that within a relationship. And then you wonder why that thing isn't like, you're not satisfied with it. It's like, well, how much effort are you doing? Like, are you still flirting and dressing up and planning dates and moments of uninterrupted connection, all of those things.
And sharing passions as well. I've heard many people be, oh, well, he's really into his golf or really into like running or he's always doing these things. And it's like, well, join him. You don't have, Dean done his bike ride and he trained for a year before he cycled. For anybody who doesn't know, he cycled 14,000 miles from Argentina to Alaska and broke 2 world records doing it.
Whoa.
And it was a lot of training. He would do 100 miles every day training. I just had our second baby, so I was the breadwinner keeping us going while he was doing this every day. And if I just let him do that, that would easily have been something that would have pulled us apart. But I was like, right, what can I do to get involved? I've got zero interest in cycling. Lycra is not sexy at all. But let's do, like, I'll do the fundraising, I'll do the preparation, the planning, all the logistic stuff. I'll make sure that I get involved and I give my skills. Okay, you need to eat food. Well, I went and trained to be his nutritionist so that I could feed him properly. Like, we just got involved. And the sex trafficking side of things, it's, Dean wants to fight it 100%, but it's not his 1000% passion, but he knows it's mine. So he'll be like, well, what can I do? How can I help? How can I, like, as you say, use his voice to be that, if anybody questions Dean's alpha male, like, that would be,
it's
no,
comical.
we're not doing it. So he can help with those things. Like, so he always says to me, like, when we go out, he goes, go and try not and talk about sex trafficking today because we've just met these people. And I always fail. I end up doing it. But he just finds how he fits into my passion. I find out how I fit. You don't have to like what they're doing, but just, I think I even heard Victoria Beckham say it one day, like, she hates football, but she loves watching David play football. So it's there's little things you can do to make it better. But I think as soon as it gets to that contempt, like, that's where you want to avoid. Like, don't hate them or hate what they're doing. Like, try and work around that.
So many people that I've talked to, they'll say that it's one of those, like, really small creepy things that happens. Like, it's not all at once. It's like these tiny little micro moments that you decide, oh, well, it's just, we like different shows, so we're going to watch our shows in different rooms. And then that becomes more normal. Or like, we don't like doing the same thing at the gym, so we go to separate gyms or separate times. And it's like all of these little things that you start to kind of veer off path with each other. And then before you know it, you're like two strangers living in the same house and you have no connection. Because to me, there's no way to know. I think part of what makes a relationship work is honestly dumb luck. It's like that or fate. Like, there's not a lot that you have control over whether you're supposed to be with someone or not, because if you meet in like your 20s, you have no idea who you're going to be in 40. So you could be a totally different person and those things don't match anymore. But what you have control over is like those exact things that you described, which is making sure that we're still involved in the things that like light the other person up because you love the other person. Yeah. You don't have to like cycling. I also don't like cycling. So it's like if my person started picking that up, I'm like, okay, here we go. I guess I'll do the food. I'm with you on that, but I'm not getting on a bike. So it's like finding a way that you can support the person and still like be their cheerleader, even if you don't like the thing.
Yeah, and I have this discussion with one of my best friends, and she's like 1000% marriage is not work, it is fun all the time. I love it. Her and her partner, I mean, she's in her 60s, and she'll know I'm talking about her right now, but their relationship's super cute, and they only got married last year though, so I'm like, you're still in that honeymoon bit. And I'm like, it's 100% work. Like we know when, because we're so busy, like Dean and I have got like so many different things going on and we're always busy, and I love working, and if I'm not working, I love writing, so I could literally finish work, get the kids to bed and just start writing. When Dean's away, that's what I'll do. I'll just be doing that, and it makes me happy. So I've got to actually go, no, spend time with Dean. And at 7:30 every night when Dean's home, we sit down and we have a cup of tea and we'll watch something or we'll talk about something. Sunday mornings, every Sunday morning we sit down and we talk about the week and what's happened and what's new with you and what's going on. If he's away, we'll reconnect next time. And we know that, I mean, there was one year Dean was home 21 days for the whole year. So used to being apart, and actually this is the longest we've been actually together, and that can be quite difficult. Because,
I was just going to ask, is that hard in the comparison to like 21 days in a year to having...
I'm just so used to being home, and I was talking to someone, because, you know, a lot of the military wives that I know, when their husband comes home, when that's him done, when his service is done and he comes home, that's the hardest point for them completely, because they've, you know, you build your own routines, you build your own home, like this is how you do it, this is where everything goes, this is what happens, and then they come home and then it's like you want them to fit into your world, but it's still their house. So you've got to, and I would deal with this when I lived in Aberdeen in Scotland. It's the oil and gas capital of Europe, so most people around there work in some sort of offshore way, and normally that's like a two week or 3 on 3 off, in these types of rotations. So the wives there are used to just men coming and going, and the marriages that didn't work were the ones who didn't accommodate for each other. You know, my grandma and granda, my granda worked offshore, and day one that he would come home, my grandma knew she wouldn't see him. He would be straight to the pub. It would be like a 24-hour bender, but then that was it done. Like once that was done, he was home, he was husband, and it was there. And then he went off, and then that was their kind of routine. But finding that, like the other thing would be that they come home and it's like, right, boom, do this, and they're like, I don't even know what I'm doing, and they expect them to be like switched on and ready. So it's just finding that blend. But yeah, for me, it's really hard when Dean's home, especially if he's not got work, because he'll be like a little puppy dog, like, let's play with me, Alana. And I'm like, no, I'm working. Like, find something. But then I'll find him jobs. That's what I'll do. The next thing is like, you do this, and then it works. And it doesn't always work. Like, and I hate that when people are like, oh, you're the perfect couple. Absolutely are not. And we've got every single problem that everybody else has, but we work at it, and I think it is work.
So what is problem? Like, what is how do you resolve issues typically? Like, what does that look like?
So we've got like polar opposite personalities. I am very calm, very methodical, very silent. I can be very, very silent. Dean is like loud, shout, overreact. Everything's like crazy. So if I'm going to tell him something, I'll kind of let him know I'm about to tell him it, and then give him that minute before I tell him it. So he knows it's coming, he's prepared, and then we can get into it. If it's something that maybe happens, like Molly does something or something goes wrong in the house, if he flips, we kind of have to wait till he calms down. Like, let's just take a minute, let him get to that stage where we're both on the same level. But I mean, it doesn't always go great, but that is just about getting to each other's, like, just finding out what works, I guess, on that side of it.
I find that there's usually one person that gets really quiet and one person that wants to talk a lot.
Yeah.
And it's like you have to give both people like what they need in order to meet in the middle.
And I know that it pisses him off, but I do probably do it for that. Like, I'll just go completely silent while he's shouting, and I'll even do things like, "Are you finished? Like, are we done? Can we talk?"
I do the same thing. I'm like, I'm not doing all of that. It's not happening.
I know, and it's funny because now Molly's got into this stage now. She's almost 14, and she's kind of a blend of us, but she laughs at him when he's doing his crazy bit. She'll just be like, and I'm like, oh no, that'll just make him go even more. So he's now got 2 of us who are just kind of like sitting back while he's having his crazy moment.
I think there is something to men, though, like especially dangerous men or like military men, like fighters, all of those kind of more traditionally masculine guys that end up having themselves surrounded by women. And I think part of it, it's like cracking open their heart a little bit and like getting them to soften. There's this really cute clip I see. I wanted to save it, and maybe I can like have them do it in like the lower thirds of this, but it's a dad, and he's got like his son and his daughter, and he's like fake punching the boy, and like the boy's like blocking him and like punching back, and he goes to do it to his daughter, and she grabs his fist and starts kissing it. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I was like, this is why men need daughters. And it's like the first thing that I hear people say, and Dan says it all the time, like, it's very common. It's like, oh, it's a punishment. It's like, why is everything a punishment? Like, no, it's actually like, it's a gift. You're not getting punished because you have a bunch of girls. It's actually, it's for you.
And I think we haven't really got into that topic yet, but I've done a lot of work in the plant medicine space, and
oh, cool.
Most of the things that we do with the men is just finding their feminine, finding that side of it, and especially the soft community, like their relationships with their mothers might not have been great. Like there's been something that's happened in their early childhood, and a lot of this kind of aggression, it comes from that little boy reaction of like that fight kind of moment. So a lot of the time, what we're finding on retreats with the guys is that fight to get in touch with the feminine side and really feel that, and the healing that happens when they're open up to their I remember when Dean went on his first plant medicine retreat, he was like, did not think he needed anything. There's nothing wrong with me. I don't need to be doing this. This is ridiculous. It's all woo-woo and everything. And he came back just a completely different person. And the one thing he was worried about was, what if I lose my strength? And what if I lose all these things? And he actually says now, he was like, I've got more strength than I had before. I've got more control than what I had before. He says that before it was like the red mist would come and it was just like boom, like I'm just going to fight, or I'm just going to be straight in this aggression. He says even now he can see it sort of starting to simmer and he's able to pull it back a little bit. So he and a lot of the work that we've done would be on that feminine side of it. And a lot of people are like, oh, but you need to fix his masculine. I'm like, actually his masculine's okay. It's actually just blending them both together and becoming a bit softer that makes you stronger.
Yeah. So what exactly do you do with the plant medicine? Are you like facilitating or fundraising?
So I probably got introduced through Kelsey.
Okay.
And I've always been a pretty spiritual person. I've always been kind of in touch in that way, but I wanted Dean to get some sort of help. I wanted something to help him post-military. And Dean was injured out of the military. His career was over before he wanted it to be, and then he saw guys die, and just the same as everybody else. And Kelsey and Marcus and Amber Capone had been talking to us, and we were like, what is this? So Dean, we booked Dean onto a retreat. He got on. We saw how well it worked for him, and then I got booked onto one. I was completely different. I fought it like crazy. I was like super control freak. I'm not going in. I'm not dealing with anything. And my way of dealing with my traumas had been to help other people, you know. So mine was sexual assaults in my childhood and my teens, and I put my perpetrators to jail. But from that moment, after the court case, I went to help other people, and that was really how I dealt with everything that I done was help, and it was kind of pushing it aside. So my first retreat, I done that exact same thing. I went on the retreat, I pulled away from it, I didn't speak to anybody, and then anybody that needed help, I just jumped straight to them. So I was like, oh, that person's struggling, I'll go help them. Anything to avoid helping myself, really. And then I went on more private ones, and I felt I healed my body, physically. I hear a lot of people about their mental healings that they go through, but my body physically healed, you know. So I was 8 years old when I first started taking laxatives. I pretty much had some sort of eating disorder most of my life, and that stems as well with the sexual assaults and things like that intertwined in it. And during one of my retreats, I felt my body open up, and every single person who'd ever harmed me or had been with me that I didn't want them to be with me left my body. Like they flushed out of my body completely, and I seen everything leave. And you know, the laxatives I started taking when I was 8, but I would have got over it, but my body just didn't function anymore. Yeah, I would have been doing that since a young girl to lose weight, and then probably later in life it was because my bowels just weren't working by themselves anymore. So even like during pregnancy I would try and stop, but it just caused too much pain and it would be horrible. So I was like, I'm kind of stuck on these things for life now. Well, the medicine kind of opened my entire body up, and it just released all this stuff. And then, you know, since that specific retreat, which was well over a year ago, I haven't touched a laxative since that day. And my body just refreshed itself. And it's pretty unbelievable to see how you can just start functioning again. So physically it's kind of healed me, and mentally it gave me this strength of saying, well, nobody would ever do that to me again, and I would never just finding some self-love, I guess. And then I started working for a non-profit, Heroic Hearts, that does veteran retreats and helping them raise money. So I worked with them for a year and got their income up. and got to know how they worked in different ways. And then I was like, we should be doing this for human trafficking survivors, because what a veteran goes through, if you think about, most of these guys are young boys, like 16 years old, they're like, we're going to join the military. And, in the UK, a lot of it is, it's like military or jail, like that's your two options. They join up, they don't really know what they're doing, and they're sent to these wars, they're doing things that they don't really want to be doing. It's very similar things with the trafficking to the veterans. And they come out with all these demons and they don't know how to deal with them. The medicine helps with that, similar with trafficking. So we're starting to bring trafficking survivors through treatments, and I've got a big one coming up soon that we'll actually be able to like publicize, so to show the benefits, because I believe that the benefits on sexual trauma is incredible.
So are you allowed to say like where you're doing like the psychedelic therapies, or would you
everywhere that I've done is in legal places, so
legal places,
Mexico, okay. Costa Rica,
mm-hmm.
and Jamaica. I haven't done Jamaica yet, we're going to do that eventually, but yeah, mostly in Mexico.
So how are you measuring the benefits with like this group that's coming up? Like how, or like what's the intake look like, so that you can actually like show some data? Because it's one of those things that there's been such a politicized push as far as the narrative goes around drugs in general and psychedelics specifically. And I was one of these people that thought they had no medicinal use, no utility. If you did them, you were going to immediately become addicted. They're just for like losers essentially, and you're going to die. Like I was maybe, and again, dad was a cop, so this is probably not going to surprise anybody, but I might have been like 7, and he showed me this documentary of this woman that died from taking Molly, and it was like the black and white and red and all dramatized, and it scarred me. I was like, oh, I will never touch anything, and it worked. Because like that was the DARE days, right? So just like don't touch any drugs. And I didn't do any psychedelics until I was like in my late 20s because of that. And I remember the first time that I went to do psilocybin, I had to actively control my breath because I thought I was going to hyperventilate because I was so scared. I thought I was going to die from mushrooms. Like that's how ignorant I was. And there's a lot of people that still hold these beliefs. I think when J.D. Vance was on Rogan's episode, he was saying he had no idea about the benefits of psychedelics and psilocybin specifically. And Joe was pushing for this to help vets and see PTSD. And he had no clue. And I'm like, you're the vice president, and you have no idea about the benefits and how, all the work that MAPS is doing.
And I think that the difficult thing is to say it is the same as what I was saying before. Like, we should have autonomy over what we do and how we do it. But to fully legalize it, and everybody that works in this space will hate me for even saying this, but I'm not 100% on that yet, because there's so many bad people out there. I've heard of shamans like taking advantage of girls while they're in that space. I've heard of people, while the neuroplasticity is active, like, sign your house over to me, sign your business, do this deal. Like, things are happening to people that shouldn't be happening. But I think with whatever happens, there's always going to be bad players out there. I think that's what kind of needs to be regulated. Like, who are these people that are taking advantage of other people? And I think it's super weird, because I just wouldn't be messing with Mother Nature and karma and everything that's going to come back on these people. But I have heard stories of them doing it. But when it's in controlled settings, and that you've got the right people administering, and that you're able to, I think that a lot of people, and I hear a lot of people, I'm going to go on retreat and I'm going to get better, and it's like that much of it. The medicine is just so small compared to
integration and all
that. The preparation, the integration. I mean, I've heard of people, ayahuasca didn't work for me. Well, what was your preparation? Like, I went out the night before and then I went straight. Well, okay, that's not going to work, is it? It has to be that you're committing yourself to. And that's why they say set the intentions, and what is it you're going to do, and how do you want to change your life? Like, what do you want to make different, or what needs to be improved, or what, knowing all those things and working with it, and not just expecting this little magic mushroom is going to get all the things that are wrong with your life suddenly are going to heal, and I'm going to do ayahuasca and I'm going to become rich, or however it is, whatever you've read or whatever you've seen. It can only help you as much as, and I am by no way, shape or form an expert at all, and there is a lot of people out there that maybe they'll do one retreat and all of a sudden they're an expert in it, because you do see things that are pretty incredible. But I think that if you're willing to do all the other work, it can be incredibly life-changing for you. And things like addiction, and for personally for me, I know that there was nothing, that I'd been to doctors, I'd done so much to try. I didn't want to be taking laxatives for sure, but there was no other option when you would go like 2 weeks without going to the bathroom or have to go to the hospital.
It's dangerous.
It was horrible. So it fixed my body. And what's really funny is when anything stressful is going on now, I feel it immediately in that. And if it's like something that's long ongoing, sometimes it can start to happen around here, and it's your gut. Like it's your gut's telling you, like literally. So I only know from my point of view is that it healed me physically as well as the work that it does with your spiritual and mental side of it. I was definitely physically healed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and addiction specifically, like you mentioned, I think it's ibogaine, right? Where you could be on like a heavy alcoholic, or what's the other one that they send people down there for? Maybe it is alcohol. Is that like the main one that
opioid addiction?
Yeah, that's the one.
Addiction, and opioids. I think any addiction. I think what the great thing that it does over the likes of AA or these types of programs, I think with some of these programs and some of the things that you're sent on, the kind of shame element is still there. We're not getting rid of that like self-hatred side of it. So we're saying, right, okay, stop drinking alcohol. You stop drinking it for long enough, we'll give you a coin, and then if you start drinking again, you'll lose your and
it's always on the back of your mind too, because you always call yourself an addict, right? And you identify with how many days you're sober. So like the thing that you're trying to like break the addiction with is actually still controlling your life.
And then there's something else that comes up, and it's kind of like you're shamed into be, and it's great. It's helped people. My grandma, she stopped drinking through AA, and that was great, but it didn't fix her in the way that so much was still going on there. But she was so like, I have to keep hold of this like days count. Whereas I think with things like ibogaine, it's curing the actual addiction of
the pathway.
Mm-hmm. And I think from what I've heard as well, that people can be cured from things like alcohol addiction, and they can actually go out and have a beer and just drink that beer. And I love that, because I think back to my grandma, she used to like go into restaurants and be like, is there any alcohol in the sauce that you've cooked? And
it's just like it burns out.
It burns out. But she was just so controlled by she needed to keep that count up. Whereas if you can get cured from the actual what's controlling your mind, then one beer doesn't matter, or a glass of wine doesn't matter. And I just think that those medicines are incredible, and I find it. I can go out and I can talk about it all day long around here. I go back to the UK and they're so far behind on it.
Oh, really?
Oh my gosh! Like they're like, what? You're doing like LSD and like dancing about fields, and I'm like, no, that's not what's happening. But they're just the education side of it. There is just, it's still fully believed that it's like the hippie, kind of psychedelic Woodstock kind of things going on, and they're really not allowing it to be pushed. They are starting to, it's definitely, but I would say they're still like probably like 5 years behind where we are.
That's so interesting. See, I live in the South, and I think there's this idea that and in some ways, I mean, weed is still not legal there, which is bananas. Like there's so many families there that are generationally rich from tobacco, and that's okay, but like cannabis isn't. It's like, how many people has cannabis killed? It's like 0, right? But one is deemed socially acceptable and the other's not. But I do find, and maybe it's confirmation bias just because of who I end up being around, but when I talk about psychedelics, even to people that I think would be on the fence about it, are like really curious, and they're like, oh, I'd love to learn more. I've heard how it's beneficial to a lot of people, and specifically like microdosing.
Yeah, I think, I mean, there's certain group, I think the baby boomer kind of generation, if they haven't touched it, it's really, like my dad, for example, I watch him and the amount of medication that he takes. He's recovered from cancer, he's got arthritis, he's got a number of things going on, and he takes all these pills every day. I mean, more than 20 every single day. And then he'll be like jab after jab after jab, and vaccine after vaccine. And I'm like, what are we getting a vaccine for now, Dad? Like we've I think it's been established pretty well that isn't doing anything. Well, I need to take that because my immune system's down, because I'm taking this, and because I'm taking this. The doctor says I've got to do all these things. And I was like, you're drinking Fanta for breakfast. Maybe we could like not drink the soda and go for a walk or eat some fruit or do something healthy. Like the doctor hasn't said anything like that to me. I've got to that. Like I look at the pennies in with the arthritis. I'm like, we could do some cannabis. We could do some things that can help you there. No, I could give him all the herbs in the world. He would not touch them. He wants to take these pills that the doctors told him to take because the doctor knows way more
Appeal
than me.
to authority.
Yeah. And I can't get, and Dean has to talk to my dad now when it comes to that, because it frustrates me. I know I could help him. I'm like, I know I want to help you, Dad, but he just doesn't want to listen to me because I'm not a doctor. So why on earth would I know more than what this doctor who's giving him all these pills would do? And then, but yeah, I do speak to other people who are like, this is super interesting, and could it really help me? And I'm chronically depressed, or I'm suicidal, or could something like that help? And I think it's really sad that in the UK they just don't even get that option.
Yeah, there's a really good episode. Goop did a wellness series a few years back, and one of them is on microdosing, and it talks, it shares a whole bunch of these personal stories about women that were on SSRIs and they weren't working. And working even is a loose term because that tends to just like make someone a zombie. It's not actually fixing anything. And people that were suicidal, and then they went on this retreat, and then just like psilocybin, nothing like super intense, and then just started microdosing, and it just lifted, right? And there's so many of those stories. Like, why aren't we more open to that? Oh, because it's super cheap. Oh, because you can't patent it. And like those reasons. When the FDA denied the clearing of MDMA, and they used the excuse of, well, it puts the patient in a vulnerable state, and then the facilitator could take advantage of them, and that's why we can't make it legal yet. And I think that's bullshit. I don't think that's the real reason. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, because it absolutely does, but we have had vulnerable situations and we come up with solutions. So if you go to a gynecological appointment, right, we know that men were abusing women in those scenarios. It's right there. So we solved that by having a third party in the room anytime there's a pelvic exam. So you could do that with a facilitator as well. Just make sure you have someone there.
I think that's where I was getting at, to not say, and you're absolutely right, to not say like don't legalize it, but have those kind of standards that it can't just be like anybody can go and administer it and or go out and just take part in it. I mean, I wouldn't know. I've tried a few of them, but I wouldn't know how to do it myself and how much I require, and like I wouldn't know how to do any of that. Like somebody needs to give it to me, and somebody who's trusted needs to be with me. And I guess there's a bit of self-help on that. You have to make sure you're picking the right people and doing the right things. What was I going to say? The choice of what a lot of people say, oh, what should I do as well? And I'm like, that's got to be down to your decision and ever how you're guided, because I've tried psilocybin, ayahuasca, iboga, and I honestly found the ayahuasca so beautiful. I thought it was amazing. I found psilocybin really difficult.
Really?
I found it really, really difficult. That was my hardest one out of everything that I've done.
Interesting.
5-MeO, like that changed me, made me so...
Tell me about that, because that's the one I've been feeling called to, and I might do it in a couple of days. We'll see. But I'm super nervous. I don't know a lot about it. I'm intrigued because everyone that I've heard talk about it says that it's a really good experience. I like that it's a shorter window of activation, but like, tell me all about it.
I've had through different people. I've had 2 facilitators. They're both amazing. One of them was super gentle with me the first time, and it was just... I was singing 3 Little Birds and things. It was a really beautiful experience. And then the next person who I've worked with a couple of times now, he was the one, that was how I had my release from the laxatives and the sexual release and all that kind of thing. And that was like such a powerful experience, but he is such an expert at what he does, and knows exactly, like I could feel like pain in my back, and he knew what to blow the didgeridoo and these types of things and move things around my body. He knows exactly what was going on when you were doing it, and he takes you very, very slowly. I've heard of people getting like blasted off on like the first one, which I mean I haven't done that. The people that I've worked with have been really, really like 1, 2, 3, 4, like going softer, and then the last one is when you're kind of in that blast off state. But it just gave me pure love for myself. I really felt I got to see ancestors, and I got to see like the world in a different way, and I got like the process with that, to me, and because I trust the person, so the experience was really incredible and has been really incredible. And I found that because a lot of the work that I do is in child abuse and trafficking, like some of the dark stuff that I take in every single day, the last one I went through, we cleared a lot of that out, and I needed it. I actually asked the person, I said, I need this clear out because it was it's in you. And he was telling me a lot of like dentists and people, because they're by somebody's mouth, they're taking a lot of their energy all the time, so they need these little just flush outs, and that works for me because it's quick. I'm the week-long retreat of sitting about, I'm terrible at that. Like, you can't do any work and you just got to sit here and reflect. It's like, come on, let's go. So the DMT works well for me for that. And I think things like with the MDMA or MDA, it's a beautiful experience. I mean, like, I drank alcohol and I've tried that, and I've honestly never made a mistake on MDMA. I've made a lot of mistakes on alcohol. And I've made a lot of embarrassing mistakes, and I've done a lot of things that I wish I hadn't done, and said a lot of things I wish I've never done that with any.
That's true. Same.
Yeah. So it's interesting that one is completely legal and one you can, you just have to be of age and you can buy it pretty much anywhere.
And you can go buy enough to kill yourself.
And you can go buy enough to kill yourself, or kill someone else.
Right. Yeah. And so when we like make the safety argument, like the safety arguments, or like the like not knowing how to accurately dose, right? Like you always have to come back to alcohol, because if you misdose with cannabis, I mean, you're going to feel really shitty, but you're going to be okay. Like, yes, there are some people that are suggesting like a schizophrenic break, but we're kind of understanding that they were already, like there was a pre-existing condition that got triggered by the cannabis. So it wasn't like a totally neurotypical person is going to go in and get schizophrenic. So yeah, there's not really an overdose on cannabis. There's not really an overdose on psilocybin. I think maybe the other things are a little bit more problematic because of cardiac issues, and maybe those need to be like what you would do as like a prescription, right? And some of the other stuff is more over the counter. But if we believe the arguments that everyone's making, then alcohol really doesn't make any sense, because it is wildly dangerous. If you look at the death rates, whether it's to yourself or to others, alcohol, I believe, is like the leading cause, and it's like it spikes, and then their tiny little blips are all of the psychedelics. Like, they're almost not notable at scale when you're considering alcohol.
And I think even with the psychedelics, the psilocybin, the ayahuasca, they might have, ibogaine in particular might have some heart
stuff. Same with psilocybin, or not, I'm sorry, ayahuasca, heart stuff too.
Other illnesses, heart diseases, lung diseases, cancers, I haven't heard of it. I don't know, again, I'm not an expert on it, but I have heard of it plenty with alcohol, but I haven't heard of any liver disease from taking too many mushrooms or anything along those lines. So yeah, you've probably converted me. Maybe make it legal. Maybe
I think so. But I'm like a freedom maximalist to the point where it's maybe I need to reel it in like a little bit, but I think you have to just look at the potential for harm. And I think that what we've done with drugs, I reference this book a lot. It's by Johann Hari and it's Chasing the Scream, and it talks about like the initial drug war and how we have, as the United States, have created the powerful cartel that exists today. And a lot of it was driven by like greed. It wasn't to protect citizens. We now know like cannabis is basically harmless, and the fact that we have created so much violence out of that is pretty unacceptable. So I think most drugs should probably be legal. Most adults should be able to do what they want, and if there is something that has like an overdose potential, then you should have that be prescribed so that you have a doctor and a pharmacist telling you exactly like how to take it or not take it. MDMA is my hardest drug. Like, I've only done it facilitated, and anytime I've done it, I'm like, I don't know how anyone does this for fun, because I'm miserable. Like, the first time I did it, I felt like I got hit with a blow dart, and I was like, I couldn't stay awake. And they say for a lot of women that have been operating in like burnout essentially for extended periods of time, that the drug comes in and like gives you what you need, which is to like slow down and relax and not be an upper. So for me, the experience is totally the opposite.
I can be the same with even coffee. I can be like fall asleep on coffee and the exact same thing. We were talking about this with a herbalist recently, and like he was supplying us with some kava, and Dean was like, "What's it going to do? Is it going to knock you out?" And he was like, "It's going to do exactly what your body needs. So if you need to be knocked out, it's going to knock you out. If you need to just calm down, it's going to calm you down." That it doesn't. And I'm the same. MDMA is not good for me either. Like, I'm not good. MDA is much better.
What's the difference?
For me. So MDMA gives you more of the or normal people maybe more of the kind of I'm ready to party, I'm ready to kind of go. MDA just gives still does the heart opening, but without the kind of wild effect. And for me, it was because of my jaw.
I hate this part.
Yeah, that's why I done the MDA, because it doesn't give you that
Interesting.
horrible. I can't stand it, and I get headaches and everything else. So our facilitator on the last retreat, which was a couples one, gave Dean the MDMA and me the MDA.
Tell me about the couples therapy. I love that.
Yeah, it's really beautiful. I think if you can, I mean, even for people that can't express, for me and Dean, it was just a way of just being together. Like, we're here together, and let's just be in this moment and talk to each other and say things that maybe, and we talk all the time. We communicate about absolutely everything, but we still talked about stuff we hadn't talked about. And our last retreat, Dean opened up to me about a few things I didn't know. I opened up to him about a few things, and it was really, because you're able to do it in a really safe space, there is no kind of anger or judgment, and you're just talking to each other and just listening to each other. We sat by a river and just talked, and it just puts you both into that nice little space of, you know, again, we were the same. Growing up, it was like put on the rave music, and that's not what it's about. It's a totally different world. And I think that, I mean, I've genuinely, as you say, I've never heard of MD killing somebody on that or doing something. Like, it's a beautiful, heart-opening, loving experience. And so doing it together as a couple is lovely.
Yeah, I think so too. I've had people ask me my opinion on like doing psychedelics together in a therapeutic setting, and I just say be prepared for whatever comes out, because I believe it's supposed to. It all unfolds as it's meant to be. I think couples can do it for anniversaries or things like that as a means to connect if you're already solid, and then that's beautiful. You can do it to kind of explore if the relationship's in a weird place, like in a weird season. And then some people will do it, and with love, usually, caveat, they'll say like, no, not anymore. But the way that I've seen it happen, it's way less tumultuous than couples that just do it and like fight it out in the courtrooms. It's like this weird loving, I love you, but we're no longer.
I mean, what a beautiful way to end a relationship, just to be like really with each other and be like, this just isn't, I love you with all my heart, but it isn't working, we're not connected, we've tried, you know, using that rather than millions of dollars on lawyers or whatever it might be to break up a relationship. Yeah, there's so many different ways. I think that if it's something that somebody was curious about, like, it's 100% yes. It's a beautiful way to connect with your partner. And for me, I've done a couple of retreats with Dean, and because he's got some work to do on feminine sides and things like that, my problem with it is I immediately go to try and help him. So when I see him struggling, I see him in pain, I see that he's crying or any of these things, I'm like, I jump over and I'm helping him, and that isn't good for my own work. So it is great to do. I think MDMA together is really beautiful because it's all about the heart opening and things. For real work, like doing your psilocybin work or the ayahuasca work, I think that it can be quite difficult if there's someone there and the relationship dynamics is that you will naturally go to try and help that person. It might stop you helping yourself a bit. So I think they can all have some sort of benefit, but I do know when I've gone with Dean on psilocybin retreats or things, I'm straight over to help him, and I'm not doing my own work.
Yeah, that's interesting and important to recognize as well, because I think that's really normal for a couple, is if one person does need like the support or the grounding, and if you're going there with the intention to work on yourself, it might be better to do separate sessions versus like if you're there actively as a couple.
Yeah, and I think I'm doing one with a trafficking survivor soon, and the person had asked if I would go into the medicine with her, and I absolutely would. And then I went, maybe that won't work, because then I'll end up, you'll come to me for support, I'll give you the support, and then you won't be doing the work yourself. So maybe me not being there would be better, because it needs to be you doing it. And I'm not a facilitator, so I'll just be going in with pure love for you, but it would be probably better off for both of us to do it separately. And that was quite difficult, because I really wanted to be there with her. I know she was scared, and I really wanted to be with her while she was doing it, but it actually made more sense to make sure that I had a trusted team there who would help her, and she wouldn't naturally turn to me.
No, that's so powerful. And I've seen this with a lot of facilitators, and like anything, there's a variance, but it's like parenting, for example. You don't want to see your kid get hurt or like get scratched up or fall off of the tall thing or whatever the thing is, if you know obviously it's not going to be like a death fall, but like you want to prevent any kind of affliction, and you go in and you prevent it, you soften the blow, you support them, but at some point it's kind of to their detriment, because they're not figuring out that they're capable and they can do it themselves and build that confidence. And I think it's the same, especially in the psychedelic space, is you want someone to ground you, and you want someone to like be there as your safety net, but that's all part of the experience, is the free fall.
And I had this discussion with someone recently about trauma and fixing trauma, and I asked if they worked with kids, and she said no, I want them to experience the trauma first, and then they come to me. And I was back and forth on it, and I was speaking to a friend who has been in the space for a really long time, and in fact her children have done initiation ceremonies from like 13, and one of her children, was he 17 or 18 when I met him? And I was literally like, I'm talking to a grandfather here. Like, this guy is like so smart, so switched on, like so what he was telling me about his peers and about the work he does and about his school. It was just incredible. And I thought, he's not going to come across the harm that a lot of kids. He's so strong, so powerful in the mind, so present in the moment. We were talking back and forth. It was like I was talking to a real grown up. And that was when I spoke to him about his experiences. He was very open about it. Like, it was very light ceremony he started with, and then he's done different journeys and different types of journeys. Not obviously regular, like he's only 17 or 18, but I can't see any harm that's been done to him through that. Only good for the world, really. That kid's going to go out and he's going to do amazing things in the world that isn't going to cause harm to the world, or it's not going to be about profit or money or greed or destroying plants or doing whatever that the world's kind of doing right now. He's going to do a great thing. So I thought, well, maybe kids starting earlier, before trauma's happened to them, before all the bad stuff's happening, would that be such a bad idea? It's an interesting one, and I would happily like debate it with MD, because I'm still not fully into whether it is a good idea or not. But from seeing him, I was like, this is really incredible. And then I watched some of the things that the girls are going through right now, and Molly's friends talk to me, and I see some of the sexual things and the self-harm stuff and the suicide stuff and all the things that they talk about in school now. I'm like, wow, I wonder if we could have something different, and even if it wasn't with medicine directly, just doing more spiritual retreats and nature retreats and things that would connect them to the earth a little bit more.
And to each other. I mean, so boys having that rite of passage kind of ceremony, those don't exist. You have to intentionally seek them out. And there are some really cool groups that do it, or really interesting ways that I see fathers intentionally doing it, whether it's a walkabout or psychedelics. It's supposed to be something that has a healthy dose of fear or potential for harm. Otherwise, it's not really that. And then the big part is when they come back, that the community recognizes them as like a young man. They're no longer a child. And for women, we would have kind of that red tent, and you would be brought in by like the aunts and the grandmothers and your mom, right? And you would be initiated. And it wasn't this embarrassing, just simply like biological thing. It was a spiritual thing. Like, you're now like into womanhood. And I think all of those things have existed forever for a reason, and we just dismiss them as woo or unnecessary, because like we want everything so quick, and we have to have what's the word, like a utility, like a direct utility to it. Otherwise we can't quantify it as important, where it's like these things that you can't measure, some of those are the most important.
And we can rush through life, like everything is just like, let's get there as quickly as we want, as fast as we can, obtain it as quick, and knowing what it is you want. I think with young girls, the way that I mean, I like to work with Molly anyways, like she's completely open with me. She can talk to me about whatever she wants, and nothing's off limits or embarrassing. You know, when we were talking about periods, we're completely open about it. We've talked about all the things that we've all gone through, like, you know, if she has an, you know, accident in school and it leaks or something, that's okay. Like, that's nothing to be ashamed of, and we shouldn't be super embarrassed and hiding that. How do we use things? What do we need to do? Like, all these kind of conversations, and we'll do it in front of Dean, and Dean will be like, do I need to listen to this? Like, if we're wanting to talk about sex, you know, she'll be the one who's telling me, like, her boyfriend's maybe asking things, and I got a beautiful message from the other day. She goes, Mum, I've just I'm trying to think if she'll listen to this. Hopefully she won't, but she's like, I want to break up with him because he's asking this. I'm like, great, let's do that. Come home, let's chat about it, see what you're thinking. Let's go through all. And people will be like, oh, she's too young to be talking about sex. Well, okay, she's talking about sex. So who would you like her to talk to about? Because not me. Who's she getting that advice from? Like her friend who's
blind leading the blind.
Yeah. So let's chat. Me and Molly, our thing is to watch Law and Order SVU. Like, that's our favourite thing together. We watch the episode, we break it down, we see what's happened, what's gone wrong, what could have been done differently. And now she's at the stage, now we're on like season 26 or whatever it is now, and well, first of all, it's our bonding session. We, like, that's the moment we get to sit down together and be together. And now she's picking it up straight away. Like, there was one the other day where the girl was sitting at the bar and she put her drink down and she kind of turned away, and Molly's like, oh, she's turned away, her drink's there. She knew exactly what the guy was about to do. Like, she picked it up immediately, and I was like, this is great. And some people say to me, like, that's too, she shouldn't be watching that. Like, it's, and I think, well, she's going to learn these things, and it's access everywhere, and she's had access to everything, and I 1000% want her to learn through me. And now her career choice, she wants to be Olivia Benson. That's what she wants to do. So I do think that it's scary that we have to give information so young, but that's the world, and I would rather she was armed through my voice than through the God knows how many other people that a child talks to every day or communicates with or interacts with in a daily basis. Like, I want my voice to be the loudest.
Oh, absolutely. And I see so many mothers making the mistake of avoiding conversations because it makes them uncomfortable. And I'm like, it's not about you. Yeah. Your responsibility is to your child. And again, if it's not you that's giving the information, it's a peer, and the peer has no business giving any of this. And I'll even see moms of daughters that are like right around that puberty age still avoid it about talking about periods. And I'm like, first of all, she could get it any minute, and then she's going to be blindsided and not know what to do. And then her friends, I guarantee some of them have it. So like, what do you want her to learn about that? Do you want it to be shame and gross and like all of these things? Or like, do you want to, it's just part of becoming a woman?
Because I think if we can raise them to have that conversations that, yes, we're women and men are going to want to have sex with us, and our bodies are so incredibly wonderful, and our words and our power and things that we can do, and we're creators, and the even just that monthly thing that happens to this body is so incredible and wonderful. If somebody told me that when I was younger, if somebody told me that I was beautiful and I was important and that my body was precious and that I could do things that no man could ever do, like, I would have loved and respected it more. I maybe wouldn't have made the choices that I made, or the mistakes that I made, or fell into situations that I would rather not have been. And I would have had that love, like self-love, and having that ownership of yourself is incredible. And I watch how she does it now, and I watch how she just kind of cuts people off if they're like, you know, if somebody wants to kiss her, if somebody wants to do this, she'll just, and more importantly, that she comes and tells me. That's like everything to me, that she's got that strength. And even, as I said, the way she speaks to Dean, like, she's got zero fear, zero anything. She'll just be like, Dad, chill out, you know, just, and she'll talk back, and she'll have like, actually, no, that's not right, that wasn't what I was doing, this is what, as long as it's respectful and as long as it's a conversation, then I'm like, yeah, like, it's totally great, because I want her to have that still be a feminine woman but have the strength.
So how do you navigate that? Because you're a little bit further ahead of me in the parenting journey. For me, it's, you don't want to crush their spirit, right? You don't want them to just be a compliant little robot, because anytime I talk about like being frustrated or being like, or struggling with parenting stuff, because I mean, I've got like almost 3 and 5.5, so like it can be a hard period as far as like just getting them to listen, to do anything really, like a car seat, for example. And one of my friends will be like, well, do you just want like someone who's like, yes, mama, yes, like you don't want that. That's not what you want. So how do you demonstrate authority or hierarchy? Like, you are the parent, so you do need to be respected and listened to, but also you're allowed to question me. You have your own voice. If I do something wrong and I'm not accountable, like, you can call me out on that. Like, how is that modeled? Like, what does that look like?
I mean, for me, as I said, like, when it comes to Dean, I'm super quiet, but when Dean hears me shout, he, like, I've never seen somebody so scared. Like, he'll jump into the corner. Like, Dean talks about it on Special Forces selection and things, that there's these sergeants or whatever they are that are constantly shouting, just shout, and nobody's actually listening to them because they're just shouting so much that you don't know when they're angry or not. It's been able to change that tone and be like, actually, and my mom had the look, as soon as she looked at me, I'd be like, oh, okay, I'm done. So parenting's different for everybody. I think that I see a lot of it where it's like, being super sweet, I don't want to hurt them. Maybe that they've been brought up in a really strict household and they don't want to do the same to their kids. But there's a difference between being nice to your kid and, for example, when I caught the girls sending messages that they shouldn't have been sending, I called all the mothers in and I said, look, this is where it could go wrong. If a picture is shared or if something happens, they could all be in trouble. Like, sharing child sex abuse images can be a problem. And try and explain what nudes meant. Like, if you share a nude image, you're committing a crime. The person receiving it's committing a crime. Like, trying to share that, we need to educate. And like, the moms were like crying. They were telling me how wonderful their kids were and they wouldn't do these things. And I was like, guys, this isn't about how good a parent we are or whether our kids are good or not. They're going to make mistakes. We need to show them and guide them and walk them through those mistakes and not let them be just blindly walking into it. I had one kid who'd asked Molly for nudes. I found out who his mum was. I phoned his mum and I said, look, this kid, Molly, oh yeah, we know Molly. But I said, okay, I've seen the message. He's asked Molly for this. I just want to explain that that's not my son. Not my son. And I was like, okay, it definitely was your son. Let's get past that and go to the bit of telling him that he shouldn't be doing that. No, my son goes to church. Okay, great. Again, let's get past that and say, it was your son. He sent it to my daughter. Nothing's happened. It could have happened. And she refused. She was just like, absolutely not my son. Wouldn't happen. And I was like, how are we helping? First of all, he's getting away with it. He's not being taught that it's wrong. You're not showing him any authority. There's nothing going on there. So it's, and I've got 3 very different kids. Like, Molly is always been quite calm and content, but she's growing up to be able to stand up for herself. Some of the things she kind of lets her friends away with. I'm like, you can maybe, but she's like, choose your battles type of person. She's one of them. Tommy is just super fun loving and would live in the woods if he could. He's just like that kind of guy. But the third one, Harley, is just insane and trying to get her to listen to any authority. It's like, so they are all really, really different, but it's knowing that, like, okay, the stove's hot, I've told you not to touch it, go touch it then. Like, then you'll realise it's hot and you hopefully won't do it again. Or don't jump off that, okay, jump off it then. See what happens. That, to me, I mean, if a few bumps and scrapes, obviously if it's very, very dangerous, right. Don't and stop them. But they have to make the mistakes, they have to learn.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm doing. And then when they do fall, I'm like, damn it.
And that's the bit that we differ as well. Like, when they do fall, I'm like, okay, cuddle. Like, cuddle. Dean will stand there and be like, well, what did you learn? What did you learn there? And I'm like, no, cuddle first.
Yes, yeah. Yeah. See, I haven't had to deal with the parents yet. It's amazing how early bullying starts. I've seen bullying, I think the youngest was, I think they were in their 4s. And I kind of like let it play out because I wanted to see what was happening. So one kid had kind of got like 3 others to try to exclude my son from something, like one of those like little toy houses that you play in. And he was in there and went to walk out and they locked him out. And the kid's holding and he's like, don't let him in. And the other kids are like, hee, laughing. And then the adults are not paying attention at all. I'm like, I'm paying for this. This is super. And I'm like waiting and watching. And then my son goes in and he grabs the door and he rips it open. And he's like, I can play in here if I want to. And he just makes his way in. And I was like, yes, dude. And if I had like interrupted that, I would have stolen that opportunity of him being like capable and standing up for himself. But like to see that, I'm like, well, how do you get a bully already at that age? That's interesting. And then, like, now there's one kid that's, like, bending his fingers back and, like, came and grabbed chocolate and smeared it on him because he thought it was funny. And
I wouldn't say that it's the parents, but so much of it, from what I've seen, has been something the parents could have worked on. You know, there's PTSA groups and things, which I'm clearly not a part of any of them. I'm not, like, I hate school pickup time. I'm just not that person.
Yeah.
But when the kids are doing something wrong and they're not being corrected, and then as you say, like, how do you deal with it? Like, I remember when I was being bullied at school and this girl wanted to fight me, and I wasn't like, I don't want to fight, I don't want to do that, and she was like, she planned this big thing outside the school where she was going to, like, jump me with all these other girls. And I went home at lunchtime and my mum was home, and I said, Mum, she's going to beat me up, like, what am I going to do? And she was like, well, you're going to have to fight her. And I was like, I don't want to. And I remember walking out of school that day, like, super scared. I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. And I walked out and my mum was just sat in the car. She didn't come out, she just sat there in the car, and that in itself just gave me that strength to, like, stand up to the girl. And I ended up, that was probably where I learned how to, like, talk my way out of a situation. Like, and just explain that we shouldn't have to fight and we shouldn't do this, and that's basically how I've lived my life since then. But just knowing she was there was enough for me to, like, feel that bit of strength. So it's really how I've tried to do it with Molly. But our kids are all, you know, Molly and Tommy were born in Scotland, so Tommy's in particular has got a really strong Scottish accent. Molly's kind of adjusted hers, Americanized it a little bit, because she was getting picked on a lot for her accent.
Oh, no, I love the accent.
And Tommy's is so cute, but a few of the boys have done the same, and they've said that, and some of the things that Molly said, especially when she was like 9, that was a weird age, was definitely wasn't coming from the kids' mouths. Like, it was stuff that the parents had clearly said to Molly, to the kids about Molly, and that really bothered me, because it was like, and it was probably after I'd had that conversation about the sharing of pictures with a group of mums that changed things for Molly a bit. She felt like friends stopped speaking to her, and things were there. So it's just, you've got to be really careful that you don't. But when it comes to the mama bear thing, I'm like, I want to go and kick their ass. Like, I really want to go and kill them, but I can't. Molly has to do it herself. Unless it's parents. We've had a few parents of being almost the aggressor when it comes to the kids, and then I absolutely will get involved.
Oh yeah, 100%. It's got to be hard though when you're dealing with other parents though. So, like, with these kids that are already, like, bullying, what I see is, like, a lack of parenting. It's kind of what you described with that other mom. It's like, not my son, not my son, and then they kind of they can't see that their kid is fallible or imperfect, as we all are, right? And it's just not wanting to be disliked to such an extent that you're not parenting anymore. And you see that at a lot of, like, the more hippie schools, because it's, like, all love and acceptance and zero discipline or guardrails, where I'm, like, pretty stern with a lot of things. But when it
starts to loosen, I think, you know, we were brought up, you know, we didn't have money, we didn't have any, but manners were, like, the most important thing. Like, we didn't say our please and thank yous. Like, my mum would go crazy. Like, we still got hit, and we got, like, she was really strict on how we hold our knife and fork, like, how we, like, say thank you, how we just, everything was very, you know, you stood up if an old person got on the bus. Like, there was things that were just ingrained in you, that how you dealt with people and how you interacted with people. Like, sometimes the kids will come around my house and they'll just go straight to the fridge and grab something. I'm like, my mum would have killed me.
Yes. I just had that conversation. I was like, I don't mind feeding you. I love it. Selfishly, yeah. I love to, like, give, but ask or be polite. Yeah. Like, you don't just, like, rip things open in someone else's house. It's crazy.
It happens all the time with me, and I'll say that to them. Like, if you're in somebody else's house, ask. I don't mind doing it, but again, please and thank you wouldn't go amiss either. But it doesn't seem to be that it's something that's kind of instilled. I'm in Orange County in California, and it doesn't seem to be like a firm thing that you have to say. I see it in restaurants all the time. The kids sit and, like, say, please. And my kids don't do that. They're like, no, it's not getting it. And I think that if you do that, the basics, the manners, the really soft skills, that grows into other things, and they start to become, like, you know, my kids are, if they see a piece of litter on the ground, they pick it up and put it into a bin. Like, it doesn't have to be their litter, it can be just there, but those tiny little things because it's in my head, I was taught that my great auntie Molly pretty much raised me before my mum died and after my mum died, and she was, she would have been like 100 last year, but so she was really old. I think she was in her 60s when I was born, and she just had the most simple lifestyle, but everything was, she worked for 50 years. She was a single woman all her life. In the war, she ran the bomb shelters and things. She was such an incredible person, never took any debt, paid for everything herself. Very simple life, but helping other people was her number one thing in life. Like, she was always looking for ways to help people. And I think that's the other thing, like a lot of youth now aren't really learning about like paying it forward or helping others, or living a life that isn't just about yourself. Because right now it's instant everything. You get everything when you want it, where you want it. You're not working for it, and it's not about anybody else but yourself. And I think that can cause a lot of issues too. I mean, the kids are great in so many ways, and I think it's incredible like what they've got and what they've got access to, but I think there's some stuff that's missing. From when I was speaking to some brand guys the other day, and they were saying about the revolution of how brands used to last like 100 years. A brand could be in existence, but now it's apparently 3 years is the average life cycle of a good brand name. And I was like, yes, but there's something about vintage. Like, there's something about something that's really, really special, something you work really hard for, like buying things multiples on Amazon, for example, is okay, but that working for it and earning it and then getting it and having that something really special is kind of lost a little bit.
Yeah, I was talking about this the other day, where we think we want comfort or simplicity and we want everything automated and immediate, and you can start doing these things, especially if you have the means to. I think this is actually one of probably like the most like dangerous places to be, as far as like whether you don't have money or you have a lot of money. I think it's like the excess that actually gets you into a lot of trouble, which is why you see so many like billionaires committing suicide. It's like you take away having to keep up your house, right? Like you'll outsource that, hire someone to clean for you. You'll get a nanny for each kid. You'll get a personal assistant, and before you know it, like you're kind of just sitting there and you're like, well, what am I actually doing, right? Like everything is so easy. You're not cooking for yourself because you're door dashing or you have a chef, and like all of these like little things that seem like inconveniences or even just like a pain in the ass, like they lead you, like it's that contribution and that service that gives you purpose. So for me, like I cut back. We used to have a full-time nanny. I don't have a nanny at all anymore, and I'm like so much happier for it. I'm like, it made me feel like in the beginning it was great because I'm like, okay, I can focus on my podcast for a few hours and I can make sure I go to the gym, and like that like getting to the gym now is like a nightmare because I'm like, I have this one window to do it. If I miss it, I'm out for the day because the place I go doesn't have childcare. But it's like where I started to kind of like take things out of my automated life, I like found so much more purpose in them. Like, it's more work, but like I'm so much more present because of it, and I'm not just like aimlessly floating. And I think that a lot of younger kids are doing kind of something similar. It's like this and a lot of this is also just pop culture. We are so focused on ourself and our trauma and our story and what do I want, when I think we exist in relationship to other people. So it's like, how am I contributing or like making someone else's life a little bit better, a little bit easier, and like how could I give a gift to someone else? And then like that's the secret. It's not about you, and then you'll find it through that.
Fully. And I think that any time that I'm having a bad day, I don't often have bad mental health days, but if I do, I'll go and help somebody, and it just instantly changes how you're feeling. Or look at somebody who's in a bad way who needs something, and I try and tell the kids that as well. But I think that that's like the number one for mental health. If you want to improve your mental health, go help somebody, and there's always someone that needs help. There's always a friend that can do, or even just like randomly send a gift to somebody that you haven't spoke to for a long time. It's amazing how that can change a person's life. And really, if you are kind of in that spiritual mind, the person that you think of is the person that needs that little gift, or that there's a reason that you'll get that. I do that now and then, just send something random to something, and it always arrives at the right time when it's meant to arrive. But yeah, I think who was I talking to about this the other day? I was speaking to someone about the masculine culture, and how there's, I hate the word toxic masculinity, but it's there has been this culture created of like how men are in the world. And I was like, because everything's so easy, like we're struggling to find like men, because everything is just given. They don't have to work for anything. They don't have to go out and hunt, kill, cut wood, all the things that we originally were doing. And then women have, because of the way that society's gone, women have taken over so many of the other roles, like all the other things that were going on. It's like, where is the place for men? Like, what could they be doing? I think kind of just getting out there into nature is being lost on computer games and all the other things that they do. And boys want to be out, getting muddy, I took Tommy to school when I first got here, and it was one of the Montessori schools. And I took him home after day one, and he'd gone to school in a white polo shirt, and he came home and it was still white. And I was like, out of that school completely. You're not, the one that he went to in Scotland was like, he would come home like mud everywhere.
That's how
like,
mine come home.
Like that. And I was like, no. Like, that's how they should be. We arrived here when we decided we were going to move to America. We just said, like, we've talked about it for so long. COVID's just hit. Let's just go. And we had all this stuff, and we said, like, we'll just sell it. We'll just get rid of what we don't need. I made sure my dad was okay, and he had a house, and that was good, and I set him up. And then we just sold everything else. When we arrived here, we had 8 bags. There was 4 of us. We had 2 bags each, and that was it. Everything else was gone. And that was the most freeing experience we've ever had. It was just, we've got way too much stuff now. Like, we've been here for 5 years. I need to do that, clear it again. But just having that, it was like, first of all, you realise that you didn't need all the other stuff that you had. And then that freedom of we could pick up and go and just do that. It was just it was probably the best. We were talking about the other day that it was the best time just having those 8 bags. Now we've got another kid, another couple of bags as well, but we could do it again if we wanted to.
Oh, that's beautiful. I mean, you are a fascinating lady. I love your story. I love you and your husband's dynamic, and I totally understand why Kelsey loves you and connected us. Before we head out, do you want to tell everyone like where they can follow you, how they can support you, any projects that you're working on?
Yeah, so everything is in my name, Alana Stott, so alanastott.com, all my Instagrams. Mostly what I'm working on right now, so the Blue Rose Foundation, which is just bluerose.foundation, that's the Trafficking Foundation. The biggest thing we're working on, I guess, is this piece of legislation to make grooming illegal, and I've got a petition started for that, and I'm working on a few things around it, which would be the Grooming Accountability and Prevention Act. And then we're working on police training programs and school training programs and getting that out there, but it's all available on bluerose.foundation.
Amazing, and I will link that all below. Before you guys exit out, please hit like and subscribe. Check out the links and sponsors and affiliates. Everything is in the show notes, and we'll see you next episode. Bye, everybody.